quand vient de refuser, rien ne fait la sourire, l'on parle bien, l'autre se tait.
Hello, Internet.
What up, Internet?
Halloween is over, although he still hasn't changed his pajamas, and Christmas is upon us, and that means big-time movies. Rolling out all of the films for Oscar bait. I'm Dr. Paul, back from location in our assignment in Milwaukee.
Actually, it's pronounced Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land.
I was not aware of that.
I'm Diet Dr. Paul.
We are doctors of filmology, we've been called. We are the sole inhabitants of the Desert Island Institute of Film, where we bring movies to you. We love movies. Like us, subscribe to us, all those kind of things. Go back and watch our first episode. Things are on fire, comments are on fire, subscribers are on fire. Thank you so much for this. We make it a place where you want to go and hang out and have fun. So tell them what we saw today, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we went and saw Ridley Scott's Napoleon. There are very few directors working today more adept than Ridley Scott at making large-scale historical epics and period piece dramas. Made popular in the 1950s and 60s, films like Lawrence of Arabia, The Sound of Music, or Spartacus seldom grace the silver screen today, or at least a much slower rate. A renaissance, albeit short one, was spearheaded in the 1990s by Kevin Costner, with films such as Dances with Wolves, Wyatt Earp, and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. But even with advancements in special effects and studios' willingness to step outside their comfort zones, these types of projects still didn't seem to entice studios into greenlighting them for production, making Ridley Scott's Napoleon sit that much taller among the formulaic drab taking up most of the box office screens. Currently, Napoleon has an audience score of 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, with a critic score of 61%, while it sits at 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
Well, typically the structure that you came up with this is we talk about the good, the bad, and the verdict. But before we get to that, can we add something to it? The trailers. What were do you remember the two trailers we saw?
Madam Web.
Yeah. Now watch, that could wind up, maybe they're rolling it out for Oscar bait, maybe we're talking about Best Picture of the Year.
To me, it looked like a TV show. Like, that's the quality of it. I don't understand. I don't get it. Marvel was doing so good for so long, and then...
Well, it was off my radar screen. The one that excited me, though, was the other one that they show, and that is what? Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
It looks to me, I thought when I'm seeing this, this is like when I saw the original Planet of the Apes with Charlton Heston. That's what I'm thinking. Oh my goodness, is this a reboot, the same story? I thought, have I seen this before? It made me realize, I said in the car, how much I love that series. All of them. I like the old ones and I like the new ones. My least favorite's probably the Mark Wahlberg, who's the director, Tim Burton kind of thing.
Yeah.
But even that's watchable. I mean, I'd watch it again.
It's a bad movie, but I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I'm there for this. I don't know anything about it. As soon as this episode's over, I'm going to get on IMDb and start doing some research and see when this is thing coming out, who directs it, who's in it. Is Andy Serkis in it? Man, there should be a federal law, not just a state law, that he is in every single Planet of the Apes movie.
Or anything with motion capture.
Yeah.
But it'll be him and Terry Notary doing the motion capture, most likely, if I had to take a guess. And it's probably Matt Reeves directing it, if I had to take a guess. But I wouldn't be surprised if one of these, because I think there's supposed to be 3 more Planet of the Apes movies.
Really?
This is one of them. I wouldn't be surprised if Andy Serkis gets to direct one of those 3 movies, like full on direct it. Because he's reached that point.
I am there, man. We're there. So let's get to it.
The good, well, I think in true Ridley Scott fashion is he likes these big epics, and I thought within the first few minutes of the movies, it felt to me like Gladiator meets Amadeus. The music and everything in the period pieces, but I expected it to be, and I cannot remember the name of this movie, but there was a movie that came out in like 98, 99, 2000 about the Civil War, but it's super long. It was like you go rent it at the store and it'd be 2 VHS tapes.
Was
And
Denzel Washington?
no,
Was it
it's
Glory?
not Glory. No. It was way after that. This had Jeff Daniels in it. God's something or another. But anyways, about the Civil War. But it's like
It wasn't North and South, a mini series.
no.
Okay.
But it didn't lean into the action part of it. It was all very much like the generals talking throughout this thing, 12 Angry Men-esque. And I thought that this was going to be that. Now, while there was some of that involved, there was a lot of action scenes in it, a lot of very good action scenes. So I specifically liked the combination of the two, which I thought he balanced very, very well.
I don't even know where to begin, but you mentioned something that just reminded me of the, I argue about movie special effects, and just how it's just special effect for special effects' sake.
Mm-hmm.
This is a perfect example of a movie that is cram jam with special effects, but they're invisible.
Mm-hmm.
They're
They don't
absolutely
seem like special
invisible.
effects.
They don't get in the way of the story at all. I mean, you're just simply there and you're following this powerful story. And
It felt very real too.
Yeah. There's so many things I liked about it, but the one that I'm gonna mention, I'm gonna single out because it was that memorable to me is the score. Martin Phipps, Mr. Phipps, I don't know where you've been hanging out, but this is one of the finest film scores I have ever heard in my entire life. It is absolutely there. It's sort of world music. It's not, we were talking about, you expect a movie about Napoleon to be a lot of harpsichord and minuets and stuff, and there is some of that, but it's the score matches the scenes so well, the battle scenes, and it's almost dreamlike and surreal. I looked right before we started the camera, and Pinky Blinders, and I don't remember the soundtrack from that, the score from that, but this clearly, if I were, when I'm filling out my Oscar ballot this year, that's the score of the year. It just
I like the score too, and going back to just recently watched The Killer, the sound design in that, how they would jump from like earbuds to playing loud, but like this was a different, and it's just I don't remember hearing the music a lot, which to me is an indicator that I wasn't thinking about it. So that's a good thing, is I'm not paying attention to the sound. When I'm paying attention to the music that's playing, it's usually because it's a rock song that I've heard before.
Yeah.
But you're right, it was very eclectic, and finding a way to use finding a way to make an action sequence feel tense with different types of music is always a plus.
There are people that probably are, if they're kind enough to click on this to watch this episode, I suspect there's a whole lot of people that are going to see Napoleon and they're just going to skip it.
Oh yeah.
Do you think you need to know a lot about history, and specifically French history or Napoleon, in order to enjoy this film?
I don't think you need to know a lot about the history to enjoy the film, but I think history was a big part of this movie. So if you are a history buff, you're probably more likely to enjoy this movie. Where we talk about deciphering the Rotten Tomatoes score. What does it mean? This low being this low means one thing, but when it's the same and they're both kind of like 60s, what does that mean? And I don't know, but I think that for this specific film, there was a lot of history story thrown at you. And so that may not be your cup of tea, so you may not enjoy it.
I think I said in the car, it embarrasses me when I have a PhD, but I know so little about history, either U.S. history or world history, European history, and I kind of, I'm trying to, as I'm, Napoleon is essentially, from my generation, is a comic book, a cartoon character. Because you always see the guy with short guy with his hand inside his vest and the hair, doing one of those kind of things.
And
the
he's
hat.
loud and angry.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to just sort of get past that character. And Napoleon and Josephine are like Romeo and Juliet. You know that, and you know that Waterloo is kind of like that's a common phrase where when you meet your demise, it's like Battle of Little Bighorn kind of stuff, Wounded Knee. So we knew that, but I still enjoyed it. And I know so little, but it still was captivating. What do you think about the acting?
Oh, I mean, Joaquin, there's different levels in Hollywood, and there's like good actors, there's just actors, then there are good actors, then there are great actors, and then there's your Daniel Day-Lewis's and your Joaquin Phoenix, and Joaquin Phoenix just fits in that. The one qualm that I do have with it is the lack of accent and the lack of continuity within the accents. Is just because you decided not to make people do French accents shouldn't have been carte blanche on people's native tongue, because it's all over the flipping place. And this is one of the negatives that I had to it, was there was no continuity with what dialogue and dialect people used, and so it was very confusing to begin with, especially expecting a French accent, even a slight one, and getting none of it. He didn't even not even close.
Yeah, he as an actor, in my observation, is he's different in every single role he's in. He just sort of think about the Joker. You can't get any farther from this guy to the Joker, and this underneath the surface you can see what drives him, and is it his love for Josephine? Is it his love for his country? Is it love for ambition, to be the emperor of the world? And he just really is kind of seething during the whole thing. He just inhabited the character guy. Yeah,
there's some scenes in it where he does things that are just weird, but they seem natural to him. And Again, I don't know that there's a better working actor in Hollywood today than maybe him or Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah. Production design.
Absolutely.
I'm
top tier.
In some movies that are period pieces, I find myself watching the screen, and this is when you kind of get taken out of the movie, where you're really not in the story anymore. And I keep saying, it's the desert or it's Wild Wild West. And I'm looking and say, when is there going to be a truck that goes down the interstate kind of thing? And I stop that. I mean, it really is a time capsule.
And these scenes aren't small either. Sometimes you can hide period pieces on small sets. These are not small.
It is epic. It is just absolutely eye candy. You talk about Endgame and the battles that are in, and that's epic. It is the same thing here. My favorite scene is with the Russians and the Austrians, the fight that takes place in the cold and in the ice and all this kind of. I mean, it's just like never seen anything like that. And that was just like, oh my goodness. I mean, brilliant stuff.
Yeah, it's we set pieces, but not in a gaudy way where they're just too much. They really do blend together in a good way. It is very dreamlike in the film, especially in the action sequences, which is just different. Especially, I think Ridley Scott's just really good at doing big action sequences, so it was in the right hands.
Oh, it reminded me so much of Gladiator, the cinematography, and I totally agree with you. I think I had said earlier that some of the cinematography remind me of Saving Private Ryan, and especially that landing on the beach in the first scene where there's sand everywhere and there's blood and there's smoke, and it's almost that you're seeing it. It's not like a 1970s Technicolor film kind of stuff. It's got this haze, which we often think when it makes it think, okay, we're looking at something through the past. You see a lot of epic movies about, like what happened the time of Christ or something, and it looks like that you could look out your window and it takes you away from it kind of thing. This was really had a historical sort of feel to it, as you're seeing. I don't know if it was, I don't know enough about Ridley Scott. I like him, I respect him. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but you would see, I kept seeing little pieces of dust that are filtering around that I just thought it was beautiful.
Yeah, that's part, I think, what the dreamlike sequence or the dreamlike feel. It's just, and it's very much similar to the first scene in Saving Private Ryan or the beach sequence in Saving Private Ryan. It is, and they're very similar. But it just, I don't know, he's good at that, and this played very well into his skill set.
So we kind of touched a little bit, mostly good, but we've sort of weaved some stuff that didn't work. So on the
Again,
side,
too much
bad.
history. I think for everybody, some history buffs will probably love the depth and density of it. The accent thing was big to me. That it just felt off. I wouldn't say that's a bad thing. It just didn't feel right.
Do you think it could have been edited shorter? It's what, 2 hours and 30, 40 minutes? Would that have changed the tone at all?
It would have. I think that it's an okay length. I don't think it was too long. I don't think it was too short. I think it was good. I mean, yeah, you could go and take 10 more minutes out of it, but I think tonally, especially in the non-action sequence, was necessary. Because it wasn't always dialogue heavy in some of the sequences. It's more like tone and, emotion as opposed to dialogue. So I don't have a problem with it.
Well, I think I liked it more than you did. And I think it is Ridley Scott's second best film behind Alien. And I think it's vastly superior to Alien, but they both create unique worlds kind of stuff. The thing I didn't like about it, I think I had shared in the car, is less about the film and really more about my experience watching it, is that it makes me sad that I don't have a good grasp of history. And I don't think that's unusual. I don't think that I'm an outlier here. I think in general that we don't have a good, as a country, don't have a good, view. And especially everything is so quick right now that it's like what happened yesterday. It's like much less what happened 100 or 200 years from now.
Well, non-U.S. history too.
Yeah.
It just, Napoleon is never something that
Right.
they really got to in American history. So I wouldn't expect a lot of people would know a lot about it. Maybe that drives some of the fact that it wasn't like marketed heavily just because it wasn't a big deal.
Yeah, I mean the tagline for the poster kind of thing. It almost seems like it's an underdog story. He came from nowhere and he took over the world, kind of stuff. But I did grieve a little bit with that, and I grieved because we don't make epic movies like that anymore, like Lawrence of Arabia or Gone with the Wind or Sound of Music, kind of stuff that take a long time to make and have I don't know how many extras were on this thing. I don't know how many of those were digitally, but the battle scenes were just, I learned about war watching it. There are more and better battle scenes in this than there was in Patton and the film. And that
But they could have filmed that in a crappy way where they're explaining it to you as they do it, but they didn't. And I think that makes it just more interesting.
I think given the gap, I think maybe having a little bit more exposition, maybe like a narrator or something, or maybe some title cards throughout it saying, they started out
as they transition him through time periods in his life, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. I do feel like that kind of just ends there. Yeah. I wasn't expecting it to end. I thought we had a little bit more time left in it, and it just kind of was like, oh, well, we're like over.
Oh yeah.
No prologue or nothing. It's over.
It was like Michael Corleone in Godfather 3. It's like
done. That's it. It's over.
I do think that we don't make movies that require of the audience that you not have to spoon feed everything. You don't allow a story to unfurl that is rather complex.
You're literally describing my favorite kinds of movies. The Revenant, Dances with Wolves, The Assassination by Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. These long 3-hour flipping movies that have acts where the characters change. Tombstone is even one where you could kind of put that in there too. I think those are the best movies.
Yeah. Well, this was nostalgia for me. This is why I go to the movies.
And Ridley Scott's really good at these too.
Yeah. I'm like, I think this is probably I've said before that Oppenheimer was the best movie I saw this year. I think this might be the best movie I saw this year.
This is in my top 5 for sure.
When you see it again, which you often do, and I probably will, do you think that your appreciation will increase or decrease?
We'll see, because the more that I sit here and think about it, the more it reminds me of a movie like Braveheart. Only it'd be like going to see Braveheart and having no clue what it's about.
Yeah. I do. I've read just enough that there's the historical accuracy of this thing is not as tight.
And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
Too. It's telling a story.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
This is a movie, and we understand it's not an autobiography.
Right. It's the is it the letter and the spirit of what he was doing in his life, but the cannonball and the horse kind of that kind of stuff.
Well, you go back to Braveheart. If you want to compare it to a movie that says based on a true story, that it's literally the one thing in that movie that he got right was where there was a guy named William Wallace in Scotland.
Yeah,
that's it.
I think the most difficult part about this movie is the woman, the actress that plays Josephine, because it'd be so hard to stand up against something. Well, first of all, Joaquin Phoenix, and then someone as mythical as Napoleon, and she carries it off. You can't take your eyes off on her.
No, and they don't go out of their way to make her a beautiful woman in the movie. She's very attractive, don't get me wrong, but they...
Would you date her?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, she was in a bunch of stuff. She was in Mission Impossible. That's where one of the first things I saw her in. Yeah,
I knew I recognized her from something.
Yeah. And then we saw her in something else too. But I like her. She can do the action. She can do. She's who I have her. That's my pick for Sue Storm for if they bring in.
If we went back right now and we looked at the review that we did for Mission Impossible, I swear I think I said when she was on the screen, you can't take your eyes off her.
No, you definitely talked about it. You talked
weird?
about it before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But she's who I think she would be a perfect Sue Storm because she can do the action, but she can like do the acting too. She can hold her head up there. But yeah, she was very good, very, very, very good. Wow. To play against Joaquin too, in a very iconic visually, he looked like Napoleon, but like just the fact that who he is.
She looked more comfortable in costume than he did.
He looked uncomfortable the whole time.
Yeah,
hey, Joaquin, I need you to just look uncomfortable for 2 hours and 39 minutes. Got you.
She looked like she wears those clothes every day. He kind of looked like, he just sounded like he's in his pajamas.
There were some scenes in the movie where she looked like if she just stepped 1 inch to the left that she was going to expose herself. And I'm just like, man, this is just too much. Can we get someone in from a wardrobe in here, please, and fix that so I can pay attention to this movie now? With a career spanning over 50 years and 30 films, director Ridley Scott has given us unquestionable classics such as Gladiator, Alien, The Martian, and Blade Runner. And yet, when all is said and done, his most recent film might just be his best. Scott turns in a masterfully constructed film that takes an unflinching look into one of history's most polarizing figures. Unmatched sound design and near-flawless visuals, coupled with Oscar-level performances from Joaquin Phoenix and Vanessa Kirby, resulting in a property destined for any number of nominations come Oscar season. However, Napoleon isn't a perfect film. It suffers similar setbacks often seen in films of this tenor. The hyper-realistic approach taken by period pieces often yields a dense story that some cinemagoers might find boring or long in the tooth. Fans of films such as The Revenant, There Will Be Blood, or Braveheart will want to give this one a watch. Dr. Paul gave it a 9 out of 10, while I, Diet Dr. Paul, gave it an 8.6 out of 10.
Thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for making 2023 one of the best years I've ever had in my life. I thank you for that. This was your idea, your brainchild, and there's an address that'll be on the screen. Send us your ideas if you're interested, willing to be on the show. We can do it via Zoom. We can make all that happen. And again, go back and look at the stuff that we've done. Your comments, people have been generally kind, and we've had a couple starts,
which is pretty crazy for the internet.
Yeah,
you know?
It is. Our goal is always to bring something to you that you might not have thought. And of course, you know, Napoleon is not like, I don't know that there's a whole lot of clamor out there. People say, man, we need a movie about Napoleon.
No, but when the year's said and done, they'll be talking about how good it was.
Well, I hope that you do. And certainly people from my generation, I think this would appeal to. This is, you know, this is Lawrence of Arabia kind of territory with action, with big action.
If you like Braveheart or any of those.
Dances with Wolves.
Check this one out for sure, for sure.
Pretty in Pink, all those big epic
Absolutely,
movies.
yeah. Pretty in Pink's one of the best epics of all time.
Yeah.
Next to the Odyssey.
All right. Happy holidays to you, and we will see you at the movies.
Mm-hmm.
I need to warn you. The storm is near. Napoleon is coming.
I'm not built like other men. Rated R.